What's up, guys? Welcome back to Everything Weapons and the channel. A little bit of military news for you. Turkey's latest Kaan fighter prototype begins taxi tests. The P-1 aircraft begins powered taxi testing at Turkish Aerospace, pushes towards multiple flying prototypes. This is from the War Zone website, so all credit to them. That's where I'm reading from. Turkish Aerospace has released new footage showing the second airworthy prototype of its next generation TF Kaan jet fighter, conducting powered taxi tests, marking the latest milestone in the aircraft's flight test campaign and signaling that its maiden flight is now approaching. The aircraft, designated P-1, follows the original P-0 prototype that made Kaan's first ever flight in February of 2024. Unlike that initial demonstrator, P-1 is intended to be a far more representative development aircraft. It is expected to play a central role in expanding the fighter's development program as Turkey pushes towards production later this decade. The newly released video shows P-1 taxiing under its own power at increasing speeds, confirming that it has entered the final stages of ground testing before its first flight. Powered taxi tests verify engine operation, braking, steering, flight control systems, and other critical functions before an aircraft is cleared to leave the ground. The appearance of P-1 also provides the clearest indication yet of how the Kaan design is evolving beyond the original demonstrator. While the overall stealthy twin-engine configuration remains unchanged, the new prototype incorporates several visible refinements that are in line with the move toward a more production representative aircraft. Compared with P-0, the control surfaces have been revised. There are subtle changes around the engine intakes and cockpit areas and a cleaner external finish. I think they look very nice personally. We have an overhead view of the P-1 during taxi tests. Photo looks really good. Standard non-stealthy exhaust nozzles remain for the twin GE Aerospace F110 turbofans. The first prototype had a distinctive forward sensor installation, including what appears to be a multi-purpose electro-optical and infrared search and track, or IRST, sensors in front of the cockpit and beneath the nose, respectively. These features remain present on the newer aircraft. The facet censored closures were both removed for the first flight of the P-0. And Turkish Aerospace has not detailed every modification, but P-1 is widely expected to feature substantially more representative avionics, flight control software, and mission systems than the P-0, which is largely a proof-of-concept aircraft. The P-1 represents the Kaan's program's transition from a technology demonstrator to a developmental test fleet. Additional prototypes are expected to incorporate further structural, aerodynamic, and systems improvements before the aircraft reaches its final production configuration. Turkish Aerospace has indicated that P-1's maiden flight is expected within the next couple of months. A third prototype, designated P-2, is also under assembly, with the company aiming to have both aircraft flying before the end of this year. So before 2027 is when Turkey wants these jets flying. That would significantly accelerate the program by allowing multiple aircraft to conduct different elements of the flight test campaign simultaneously. Initial deliveries to the Turkish Air Force continue to be targeted for 2028, an ambitious schedule to say at the very least. The Kaan program was launched back in 2010 at the Milli Muharip Uçak, or MMU, or National Combat Aircraft. Early on in its development, the aircraft was known as the TFX, now named TF Kaan. It is very much the jewel in the crown of Turkey's aerospace industry. However, it is also worth keeping expectations in perspective. Kaan's stated objective is to deliver a reduced radar signature fighter with high performance, advanced avionics, and modern mission systems, achieving the same degree of sensor integration, data fusion, networking, and low observable performance as a fifth-generation fighter such as the F-35, represents a much higher bar. Even so, a meaningful reduction in radar signature, particularly from the frontal aspect, combined with modern sensors and weapons, would still represent a significant step up in capability, at least in some respects, over Turkey's existing fighter fleet, which is dominated by the 1970s era F-16. Reportedly, Turkey plans to complete 3 pre-production prototypes, to be followed by 250 series production aircraft, incorporating yet more refinements. So, one of the biggest questions surrounding the Kaan program has been its power plant. Although Turkey ultimately intends to equip the fighter with an indigenous engine, the prototypes and the first production aircraft will instead rely on the US-built F-110 turbofan. Export approval for those engines have emerged as one of the program's most significant schedule risks. F-110s are assembled under license in Turkey, but are still governed by US export restrictions. That uncertainty eased after Trump administration moved to approve the sale of dozens of F-110 engines to Ukraine in a deal reportedly worth more than $700 million, ensuring propulsion for the prototype fleet and early production aircraft, while development of the indigenous TF-35000 engine continues. The domestic engine is expected to arrive only in later production blocks, making continued access to the F-110 critical to maintaining the current development timeline. The Kaan's fortunes have been entwined with Turkish plans to buy Lockheed Martin F-35s. In 2019, Turkey was kicked out of the Joint Strike Fighter program, in which it had been deeply involved in, including at an industrial level with plans to buy around 100 of the stealth fighters. Washington took that decision after Turkey refused to give up its plans to purchase Russian-made S-400 air defense systems. Since then, there have been signs that the United States might reverse its decision and offer Ankara F-35s, again, a development that would surely have knock-on effects for the Kaan. Once in service, it is anticipated that the Kaan will be used alongside one or more domestically developed drones. Chief among them are the Anka 3, or ANKA-3, a low observable flying wing uncrewed combat air vehicle, or UCAV, and the fighter-like Bayraktar Kazalama. Again, should these prove successful, Ankara may opt for larger fleets of drones at the expense of more costly crewed fighters. The Kazalama has already completed the first live trials of the K-Swarm concept, demonstrating collaborative operations between crewed and uncrewed aircraft as part of an effort to develop next-generation autonomous air combat capabilities. Thank you guys very much for watching. Smash the like button, a thumbs up is greatly appreciated. Type us a comment down below, subscribe, especially if you are new, and make sure you ring the bell if you don't want to miss any videos we post in the future. Again, you're watching Everything Weapons. Check out my older videos on the channel. Lots of content to binge watch. And if you want to stay up to date with everything military and war related, be sure to make sure you hit the sub button. Until next time, I will see you guys in my next video. Take care.